Hey there everyone, what's up? I'm Priyanka from Let's Talk College, and in this video we're going to talk about the differences between the SAT and the ACT. So let's get started. First topic, reading. Now the reading section for the SAT consists of 5 different passages. First one's always literary, and the next 4 are a shuffle up between social studies slash history and science. So reading section for the SAT has 52 questions to be completed in 65 minutes. With the ACT, the reading section consists of 4 different passages to be completed, which includes 40 questions to be completed in 35 minutes. Notice there's a little bit of a time strain when it comes to the ACT. That's going to be an ongoing theme and one of the major differences between these two exams. Next up, we have the grammar section, or the English section rather. And this one, really, there's just a lot of overlap. So there's really not much of a difference between the SAT and ACT in terms of knowledge required, because both really require the use of about 14 different fundamental rules of grammar, and that's it. Students, however, struggle with these sections simply because Word document or Google Docs, just our phones, everything kind of fixes our grammar and our spelling for us. So really, there hasn't been a good reason to learn grammar. Especially if you're looking, and I know that some of my students have told me that they tend to stop learning grammar around 5th grade or 7th grade, depending on which elementary or middle school they went to. Well, that also means that there's a bit of a gap in their grammar. Good news is that the grammar section is pretty much the easiest sections that you can possibly improve upon. It's just, like I said, a matter of those 14 rules. Learn them and you're good to go. Formatting of these, really you're just given a couple of passages to read. Let's say for the SAT as an example, you're given about 4 passages, 11 questions each, and there's underlining throughout these passages and you have to edit. So basically the underlying components, is it grammatically correct? Does it match the tense? Does it match the format? Or if not, then what's the correction? And these are all multiple choice. So basically this is just really an editing portion, and it's not so bad. It's just a matter of learning the rules. Next up after that, we have the math section. Now, SAT, the math section has 2 components. There's a no calculator section and there's a calculator section. No calculator math, as intimidating as it sounds, is really not so bad. In fact, SAT goes a little bit extra and gives students a little reference sheet with some basic formulas. Note, these are not all the formulas and all the information that you need to know, but it's less to memorize. So no calc math, the name just sounds a little more intimidating than it is. No, you are not allowed a calculator, but the numbers are going to be simpler to work with. Then the SAT, and these are about 20 questions in 25 minutes. So again, you have more time than you have questions. Then the second component of the SAT, which is the calculator section, and that is the final section, so section 4, and that one is a 38 question section in 55 minutes. Again, same idea when it comes to timing versus questions, and reference information is still available. So then moving on to the ACT. ACT consists of 60 questions in 60 minutes. Everything is calculator. Now, the differences between those two in terms of content. So when it comes to the SAT, content is going to include up to and including Algebra 2. So everything from mean, median, mode, data analysis, probability, to working with linear equations, to working with factoring, foiling, and a couple other sort of like the Algebra 2 components. ACT, on the other hand, is also going to include pre-calculus, and that's going to be surface level knowledge of multiple different topics. So you have to have a wide variety of, basically, even if it's surface level knowledge, you have to have a wide variety of topics mastered. So ultimately, those are the 2 major differences. Now, when you hear about trig included in the SAT, students, that's just like SOHCAHTOA. That's really all it is. And that you learn at the end of geometry. So it's not even fully into the trig chapter. So that's pretty much what trig in SAT land is. That's it. So those are the 2 major differences between the math sections of the SAT and ACT. And finally, so SAT, well, it has 4 sections, first the reading, then the grammar, and then the 2 math sections. ACT, on the other hand, is organized with the English or the grammar section first, then the math, then the reading, and finally you have the science section. Now, important to note that the science section requires no science background whatsoever. In fact, it's just a bunch of reading and examining tables, experiment descriptions, graphs, any sort of visuals that the test can throw at you, and comprehending them, then answering a couple of questions, about 5 to 7 questions based on them. The downside of this section, though, is the timing component, because you still have 40 questions to answer in 35 minutes. Students tend to not do so well in this section simply because the questions require like a constant back and forth between the visual and the information, the visual and the information, and it's hard to do it all in under a minute. So that's where students tend to panic, and they just kind of guess on the last few or guess on more than they originally wanted to. But that's where the score kind of eats it. And how the score eats it and so forth will be a different component where we're going to talk about just how these two exams are scored. However, important part, SAT, the perfect score is a 1600. So that means that, and I should clarify here and say that a 400 is the minimum score. So basically 400 is what you get for writing your name. 400 is the minimum, equivalent of a 0. 1600 is a perfect score. If you're looking for the average, then according to the College Board's annual report from 2019, the average was anywhere between a 1058 to a 10, I believe it was like a 10, roughly 80. So anywhere in that range is pretty much what the average is considered. If you're thinking about what a good score is, let's say for universities like NYU, then we're really looking at 1350 and above, ideally into the 1400s. Ivy League category is 1450 and above. Moving to the ACT. So ACT average score or scoring range is from a 1 to a 36. Again, a 1 is what you get for writing your name, and then 36 is the perfect score. Average in this case, according to the ACT 2019 annual report, is around a 21. And a good score is really about a 26, 27 and above. Ivy League category, we're looking at a 32 and above. So that's just a quick and simple breakdown of both of those two exams. And in the next part, we're going to cover a little bit about how they're scored, and maybe a little bit about how they are scored, and also how universities go ahead and process these scores. So we're going to talk about test optional, test blind, and test flexible, and what those vocab words mean, and what super scoring and all of that means. So I hope this video helped, and it broke it down in a short, simple, straightforward way. And I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.